I also try to codify some of my principles of practice, which apply both when I give talks or do consulting, right, and when I curate. And the first one of these is that form is concept. So the form of your presentation, of your speaking, becomes part of the concept. And we saw that already with the dreams, where sort of there was a mismatch between both. And also, of course, in the Caravelle drawing by Excoffon, where you see that he sort of rendered the speed in the form of his work with the gesture. Obscurity is failure. That's something which I find particularly important in the contemporary art world, because it's often a very closed world, where people are happy if their friends like it, you know, and other artists like it, other curators like it, but where they don't have this generosity of like, okay, I'll try to make this clear for people that are not already part of my crowd. So I think if something remains obscure, if my talk was to remain obscure, or if my exhibitions remain obscure, it's my fault. It's not your fault, basically. So if there's something which you want to know more about, don't hesitate to ask, or if there's something you think you disagree with, just intervene. Now, clarity isn't enough. If you're clear, but what you say is pretty much banal, then that's not good either. You should find a balance, I believe, between both. Value emerges from analysis. This is actually opposing one part of our culture, which is a culture of value attribution. How many stars do you give your driver? I like this, I dig that, I love it. And people stop there. And we're happy if our friends love what we love too, if they like our Instagram pictures, if they attributed the same value as we did. But actually, I think value should rather than be attributed like this on a sort of at first sight should emerge from an analysis. And sometimes when we look closely at something which we digged initially or which we liked initially, we figure out that we liked it for superficial reasons. And sometimes something which is more difficult, we may end up actually liking when we try to analyze it. So I think we should be careful with these value attributions and not give them too much credit, and try to sort of analyze things and then derive the value from that. Example without concept is blind. This is again important for a presentation. There are basically two kinds of presentations. You have the portfolio show, and then I did this, and then I did that work, and then I worked with that curator, and then he showed me, and so on. That's when you only have examples. And then you have very high-level conceptual presentations where people are only like, that's what you should do, and that's how it works, and you don't have the examples. And I think you need actually both, because examples without concepts are blind, and concept without example is somehow empty. So I try to always do this back and forth. And once you have the concept, you actually recognize in two different specimens, in two things that may seem different at first, you recognize the same thing. Say, you have the concept of passive-aggressive. We don't have it in German, right? There's no equivalent of that. But once you learn that, you can actually spot the behavior. And you can tell someone, don't be so passive-aggressive, right? And actually this behavior, you somehow have an intuitive grasp, maybe, of it when you're a German speaker. But once you have the concept, you really can see it in different occasions, in different examples. So that's why I think concepts are interesting. They make you see the commonality between two things that seem different, or sometimes the difference between two things that seem similar at first hand. Presentation without dialogue is sterile, so I'm really, some parts of this is going to be more frontal, but I'm really looking forward to engage as well in a dialogue about all the things I sort of propose to you today. Differences are as interesting as similarities. Here again is some reflex we have in many fields, which is to say, I already know this. But Duchamp did it in art. In business, Nokia tried that. But that's an argument that Kant already made, in philosophy. And we are happy because we're confirmed in our expertise when we recognize the similarity in something new that's presented. But I think in many cases it's more interesting to ask, okay, maybe he did something similar, but what's actually specific about this new thing, or how could we do it different? Maybe you're right, maybe that's something that Nokia tried, but how could it be made differently to work, or so to be interested both in the differences and the similarities, and also be somehow cautious of our own expertise. where we're always happy to say, I know that, right? I've already seen that. Let's move on. Because it's actually about us. It's not about the thing. It's also a way to kill ideas. So I know that you're going to do an exhibition together. Also think about this reflex. Try not to have it too much and remind yourself of that, right? This reflex not to kill other people's ideas just because you want to make a point that you already are an expert and you already know and so on and so forth. And last but not least, I think that good theory improves our understanding of reality. That's why I actually am happy to have studied philosophy. It's not about the sky of ideas, the Platonic sky of ideas, but it's really about transforming my way of seeing the world. And very often I also accept to write about artists that I maybe don't find that interesting at first. Because of this principle of value emerges from analysis, because I think maybe I'm going to learn something, and maybe I'm going to learn more if I look closely at an artist which I don't like at first. Because the other ones, I already know what reasons there are to like them. But now going to see something I don't like, maybe I can figure out, I can get a new way of looking at works. I can find a new way to find works interesting. So good theory improves our understanding of reality in that sense. Once I was to work on porcelain. So for most guys, I think porcelain is pretty, it's like old for young people, and guys like old, it's, and so I was working on porcelain, and once you start getting interested in it and you make distinctions, you're like, oh, this is not just a cup, it's a cup that has been made in this and that way, and all of a sudden your world becomes richer, right? I see 3 things where I saw 1. Wow, how great is that? So that's I think the interest of theory.